Okay, so I'm here with Jessica Fuentes, who is one of my favorite human beings
Oh,
and one of the biggest advocates for art that I think we have in the state of Texas, which is really incredible. Jessica is so many things. It's difficult to, we had this conversation last time I saw you where I was
mhm.
like, I have a hard time introducing you to people because you do so much. And I'm like, she's the director of this, she's the director of that, she runs this, and da da da. And you just do like a whole lot. But I think one of the most impactful things, just because it has a wider scope, is that you're the editor in chief of Glasstire, which is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like the pulse of the Texas art scene. Really beyond that, because you guys cover Texas artists doing things in New York and LA, like
Right.
Chicago, all over.
hmm
Um, and you report back on so much that a lot of people read, and I think you help gain national attention to what's going on locally here.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal. I mean, Glasstire is based in Houston, was founded in Houston, and focuses on Texas art and Texas artists. But just like you said, our scope is beyond that. Our readership is beyond that. And so being able to bring stories of Texas art and Texas artists to like national attention, and also to connect artists across the state, to know what's going on in other cities and other regions, because Texas is huge
Yeah.
and it's hard to be knowledgeable about what's happening in all of the different places.
Yeah, Texas has two time zones. Like
Yeah.
it's insane. If I want to work with someone in El Paso, we have to like actually coordinate it.
Right.
And there's certain areas of Texas where the art scene is completely different. Like
Yeah.
we live in the DFW,
hmm
so Dallas and Fort Worth have kind of become just one city. And
I
the
don't know about that.
as far as like the art scene goes, I think you see a lot of the same people.
That's true.
They're
Yeah.
going out to each other's openings.
hmm
I think there's a sense of camaraderie. I
Yeah.
know a lot of Fort Worth artists. I see them in Dallas things. I see Dallas artists at Fort Worth things.
Yeah.
That's not happening, with like Houston Dallas artists because it's so
Sure.
far.
Right. Yeah.
And so because we're so close, I think the art scene is kind of similar, if not like the same art scene. I think you could like
Yeah.
be like, this is one art scene, Dallas Fort Worth.
Yeah, the North Texas region.
Yeah.
Similarly, like Austin and San Antonio are very
Yeah.
different cities and have their own things going on, but they're also like make up this central Texas art scene that
Yeah.
has similar kinds of conversations.
And those are entirely different from like El Paso,
hmm
which is an art scene that is entirely different from like Marfa.
Right.
And
Even though it's super close to Marfa, they're
yeah,
very different places.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, like what's happening in the Panhandle, Lubbock,
What's happening in the
Amarillo.
Panhandle?
Lots of things.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like
Okay.
people sleep on the Panhandle.
I do. I sleep on
And
it hard.
there are some really great spaces and really talented artists there, and arts professionals, curators and art historians, professors who are doing great work there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm nowhere in Texas because Texas is so big. There's a
Yeah.
lot of nowhere.
hmm
Sometimes I'm nowhere and I run into a museum in the middle of nowhere, like an
Uh-huh.
art museum. I'll tell you a story. I was in Tyler, Texas the other day,
Yep.
and there's the Tyler Museum of Art.
Yep. hmm
And I was like, I didn't know this was here.
It's a great museum.
Caleb,
Caleb Bell.
yeah, Caleb was there,
Uh-huh.
and I somehow found out I was doing a visiting artist gig at UT Tyler,
Okay.
so I was there, and then we connected, and he was like, "Come out to the museum, come see the show," and I was like, didn't even, I knew because I know Caleb.
Yeah.
Really don't even know Caleb. I think that was the first time I met him, but I'm familiar with his like writing.
Yeah, because Caleb is a Glasstire contributor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. I know Caleb. Let's go. So I went and I was like, oh, this is a museum like in Tyler, Texas. And we went in and there was like Delita Martin was having a solo exhibition there.
hmm
And I was like, this is a beautiful show.
Yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Lupe, was having a show at the same time at the museum. And I was like, I didn't know this was happening.
Yeah.
And it was a really great experience just kind of walking in. And I think Texas is so huge. I never would have seen those shows.
Yeah.
And I didn't know they were there. I didn't know
Mhm.
the museum was there. And I think it's hard for people to comprehend that Texas is so massive that there are art museums that we're unaware of living in the state. Like just completely, I didn't know about the Illinois Museum of Art.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're getting like a $20 million renovation facelift thing. And I was like looking at the pictures online. I was like, this is beautiful.
Hmm.
This is like a state of the art museum
Yeah.
in Odessa.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. So I think that the work that y'all do is so important, especially because I'm an artist from Corpus Christi.
Hmm.
And you grow up there and you feel kind of hopeless and you're trying to like pursue art and you're trying to do all this stuff. And for so many other states and so many other areas, there is no avenue to
Right.
talk about what you're doing. And so
Hmm.
you're doing this thing in this small town like Corpus Christi, and you're like, I think that I did a really good show and everybody here locally likes it and it's really great, but nobody's ever going to hear about it.
Right.
Nobody's going to know, and I'm never going to get the chance to talk about it. And I think that we're like incredibly blessed to have something like Glasstire and have somebody like you who's extremely passionate about it, who's going out of their way to find those people, write those stories, tell those stories, and like platform those voices. I think that
Yeah.
that's really cool.
Glasstire is such an incredible publication. We are really fortunate to have, we have a small staff. So we only have 5 people full-time on staff, but we're really fortunate to have contributors all across the state. And so one of our goals is to, every time we're traveling, to be in contact with potential writers, right? To reach out to people who might want to write about a show in their hometown, because it's impossible for us to be everywhere all at once.
Right.
But if we can, light that fire and get people excited and passionate and interested about art writing, then that can really up our coverage, especially of rural and smaller towns. And beyond things like having reviews of exhibitions,
Mhm.
which it's really important to have those and have them in a timely manner. But I really think of Glasstire as an archive of Texas art. We've been around, we're going into our 25th year next year.
Wow.
So when you think about what has happened in Texas art over the last 25 years, how much of that has been covered on Glasstire, and what was maybe missed, especially early on as a small publication. I think a lot about, where are we now? And if somebody was looking back at Glasstire 25 years from now, like, are we telling the most comprehensive story of Texas art that we could possibly be doing?
Right.
And if we're not, where do we need to fix those holes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you did a lot of that work early on, because when I knew you, you were not, when I met you, when I knew you, I know you now. It's not like you've changed, I don't know you anymore. When I met you, you were an art critic. You were like doing art critiques and you were writing stories. You weren't the editor in chief.
Right.
You were looking, and I think, honestly, I don't remember how I met you. Do you remember how I met you? Because I was trying to think of it on the way over here.
I'm thinking it's probably through Soy de Tejas and through Rigo, but I'm not sure.
Glasstire had covered me before that.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if it was you or not.
I can't remember either.
I can't either.
I
know you. I just can't remember how.
I've been at Glasstire for 4 years, and when I started, I was the news editor. And so in that role, I did, a lot of art writing as far as critiques and reviews. Every other week, I was publishing a feature article. But on top of that, I was writing news every day.
Yeah.
So publishing 7 news articles a week, which is a lot.
That is a lot.
But it really helped me get more familiar with the state, with all of the different artists and arts professionals and institutions, because you're constantly covering, oh, this museum has new acquisitions, these museums have new hires, this gallery has its 50th anniversary, whatever the news is all across the state.
Yeah.
So that was a really great introduction, and I was glad to be able to be in that role for so long before transitioning into editor-in-chief.
Yeah. I love that. So the goal of these videos, they're like professional development videos. So we're exploring various avenues of like what is possible after art school.
Yeah.
Instead of just the 2, I think, traditional routes that everybody thinks of, which is, I'm going to be a full-time artist with a studio practice and do whatever, or I'm going to go into academia.
Right.
But there's a lot of space and a lot of things in between that.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons that I really wanted to talk to you, because you do something so important that I feel like not a lot of people dedicate themselves to the way you do. And I think that a lot of people might not even realize that it's an option.
Right.
I think people look at it almost maybe as a pipe dream, and they're like, that's Jerry Saltz's job and only him. But there's a lot of people in between.
Yeah.
It's very important. I think a lot of publications still look for that. And I'm wondering if you could talk us through, where did you go to school, and like how did you go to school,
Yeah.
and like how did you get from there to where you are right now? Like, was it accidental? Did you know you want to do it? Did you stumble into it? Tell me everything. I want to know everything. I want to know
Yeah.
everything, Jessica.
I mean, yeah, my path, like I think most people in the arts field, has been, very winding. I graduated from UT Dallas, and my degree was in art and performance, my BA. And I had no idea what I was going to do with that degree. At that time, I feel like we really didn't get much training on how to be a successful artist,
Right.
let alone like what the other options were to be as you're working towards that, right? And so what I did know I wanted to do when I graduated was travel. I really hadn't been outside of the state very much. I hadn't ever been out of the country. And I had friends who were going to South America for like 6 months. So I was like, well, yeah, I want to do that. So I went to South America on this trip, and it really opened my eyes to an art world that I had never learned about in school. Just like artists and art spaces that had never been taught to me in any of my classes.
Where in South America are you?
So I went to, we went to Rio de Janeiro, we went to Sao Paulo,
Oof.
We spent some time in Argentina, in Buenos Aires. We spent like,
You're out there.
we spent some time along the beaches of Uruguay,
Yeah.
some time in Montevideo, some time in Chile and Lima.
Damn.
So it was like a life-changing experience. And when I came back from that, I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew that I didn't know very much.
Ooh, that's really good.
Yeah.
Run that back.
And so, I was like, I need to do some more traveling. Like I came back to the US and I went to Chicago. I spent time with friends in Chicago and Boston and New York. And while I was traveling that summer, or before the summer, I guess, leading up to the summer, I just like on a whim applied for an internship at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts.
Oh, cool.
Because I was like, I don't want to go back to Texas yet.
Got to do something.
What am I going to do? Here's this thing. And so I applied for this internship and I got it. And it was an internship in museum education.
Nice.
Which I really wasn't very familiar with. So I went and I spent the summer in Boston, and I was helping lead tours for children.
I love that.
Like 5-year-olds from their like Boys and Girls Club, leading tours, talking with them about art, making art, doing things in the studio. And I had never like seen a museum that alive before with children. Like, you think about being in museums, and especially back then, I just always thought, like museums are these quiet places. You can't touch things and you're not active. And seeing the museum come alive like that just like sparked something in me. So I knew I wanted to go into education, museum education, art education, something like that. So when I came back home from that experience, I got my teacher certification, and I taught middle school art for 4 years.
Oh.
So that was like my first.
That's the Lord's work. That's
I love teaching. Teaching is really
nice.
Special.
Middle schoolers, I mean. Though.
Middle schoolers,
Middle schoolers are quirky and like weird, and like they don't understand their bodies yet, and they're like their voices sound weird.
Right. Yeah. But I feel like they're also like this great age where they want to still impress their teacher. So they kind of still want to do well. They don't think that they're like, bigger and better and tougher than you.
Yeah.
But they also have just a lot of creativity, and they can like do more critical thinking. And so that was a really fun experience being in those classes. But I also kind of knew ultimately that my goal was to get into working in museums. So I did that for 4 years, and then I realized, okay, if I want to work in museums, I'm going to need a master's degree. So I went to UNT and I got my master's in art education with a focus on museum studies. And from there, I did my thesis project, which was a study on local DFW museums. And
are you going to get your master's while you're teaching middle school?
No, I quit teaching to focus on my master's full time. But I did like substitute teaching and things like that while I was going to school. But yeah, my thesis was this exploration of family experiences in museums. So I took my daughter as my co-researcher, And we went around to like the Dallas Museum of Art, the Dallas Contemporary, the Nasher, the Fort Worth Modern, the Kimball, the Amon Carter.
Yeah.
And we did all of the activities that they had for families. And we both made art about what we did in the museums, and we wrote stories about our time in the museums. And then my thesis was, yeah, kind of exploring what was good for us as a family, what my daughter liked, what I liked, and what our experience was like together. So from there, I started working in museums. I worked at the Dallas Museum of Art for 7 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's their longest employee in history.
No, there are people there who are lifers. And there were things that I really loved about working in that institution. I worked in the Center for Creative Connections, which was this hands-on gallery. So it had beautiful works of art from the collection, but also activities for people of all ages. So you could like draw pictures, you could make a sculpture, you could write a response to an artwork, all of the things.
I love that.
And I got to do a lot of the behind the scenes work. So I got to help like develop all of the activities, but I also got to help select the artworks that came into the space.
That's cool.
And I also researched the works of art and wrote the wall labels. So working in the museum was the first time that really opened my eyes, like, oh, there are so many jobs in the arts. I had no idea.
Yeah.
The Dallas Museum of Art has a basement with 3 carpenters who work down there, and they build all the walls, all of the things that you need in an exhibition. And I had never considered that that was a job in the museum. And in my role, I worked with everybody in the museum. PR and marketing. I worked with curators. I worked with the rest of the education team. And so that was really eye-opening. And part of what I did, what I was starting to do after like writing wall labels, is I also started writing blog posts for the DMA's blog.
Oh.
And then I started, we were doing like visitor research, and I started writing about the research we were doing and what we were learning about our visitors. And that just kind of fed into this bug of writing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I had always enjoyed writing, but I never saw it as a potential career path. And so then working in the museum, I started to see how my writing could be part of my work in museums. So I worked there for 7 years, and then I switched over to the Amon Carter Museum here in Fort Worth. And I worked there for 3 years, also in education. And all along I was, writing different kinds of things for the institution, writing for this national blog on art education. I was invited to write a book chapter about the work that we were doing at the Amon Carter.
Nice.
And I published a few scholarly articles too. So I'm, starting to amp up my writing, but still very focused in museums. And then, 2020 comes around, and we've got COVID, and we've got, this mass accounting of violence against Black people by the police. And we have museums trying to reckon with their positionality of power and authority in our society. And I started to see that there might not be a place for me in museums. And for what my values were, I didn't really see them aligning with museums. So I was looking for a way out.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to make that job transition and to know what's next. But I was really fortunate because Christopher Blay, who was the former news editor at Glasstire, he reached out to me and told me that, hey, I'm leaving Glasstire. I got this other job. I think you should really apply for my job. And I was like, really? Are you sure? I don't think I could. And he was like, no, Jessica, you write all the time. Of course you could do this job. And so I did it kind of on a whim. And it all worked out really well.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I really envisioned for myself, but it's something that I think I just kind of kept following my interests.
Yeah.
The things that I was excited about, and it led me there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I love reading the things that y'all put out, and yeah, it's some of it is always, it's like I don't want to say clickbaity. It's just interesting because it'll pop up in my inbox, And I'm like, what is this? Like, what are they? And then the subject line is there, and I'm like, I'm gonna read that. And then I'll click it, and then I'm like, this is cool. And I think that it's, yeah, I mean, it's really incredible. So this is just a random question, but
Go
have you ever written like a negative review of a show or an artist?
So, in general, I try not to write negative reviews. If I don't
Right.
like a show,
Just don't write
I'm just
about it.
not going to write about it,
Right.
especially for galleries and especially for emerging artists,
Hmm.
because I feel like that's
They're
unnecessary. People
figuring
are
it out.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to like go and do a studio visit and have those conversations in person. But to put something online in an archive that's going to be there
This
forever,
is trash.
I
We
think
hate
a lot
them.
about that.
Yeah.
But I do write critical articles.
Mhm.
I'm not afraid to write a critical article. However, I tend to have my criticism lean towards institutions,
Mm.
right? Like I wrote a piece, maybe a year or two ago about the Dallas Museum of Art's show,
Mhm.
He Said, She Said,
Mhm.
which was a show about women artists.
Mhm.
And I mean, the title alone, I feel like was super problematic
Uh-huh.
for various reasons, which I go into in the article.
Right.
But basically, I felt like the exhibition was focusing on or positioning women artists in conversation with men artists. And it's like, do we have to do that? Like, can
Right.
we just have a show of women artists?
Right.
So I'm much more likely to do a larger kind of institutional critique like that than kind of like picking and being negative towards
Yeah.
somebody who's still figuring things out.
Yeah. I saw one that y'all wrote about the Eamon Carter, about their employees kind of just coming in and out.
Yeah.
And I always think that that's really like, I don't know if fascinating is the word. There's, I guess maybe, I don't know, but it's interesting because we know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know that, I know that as an artist, like all the art, like the people that are doing this for a living, we're very aware of these problems.
Yeah.
Nobody's talking about it.
Right.
But we're always kind of like, this is really weird or da da da. In fact, when the Eamon Carter, they had purchased 4 pieces from me, and the curator who bought them left.
Spencer, probably.
Spencer left.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And was like, Maggie's going to finish the acquisition forms. And I mean, that was chaotic for me as an artist because
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? There was
Yeah.
just like a period of like darkness where they had the art, but I didn't have my money.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? So there are some like actual issues that are causing problems for artists. So I feel like, yeah, that should be talked about. But at the same time, I'm like, everybody knows, right? But like maybe they don't. And like it's kind of like, you know, and then when you do something like that, I'm like, oh, someone's talking about it.
I mean, this is the difference between a news article and a review, though, like a feature.
Right.
Right. So the Eamon Carter article that you're talking about was a news article. And this was one of those things that kind of slowly came to light, right? Like we typically at Glasstire cover when, like I said, on news, when museums hire people, when people leave museums, especially curators or directors. So we tend to report on those news, on that type of news. And so that year, we reported that Kristen Gaylord left the museum. And then I think shortly after Spencer left. And then a few months later, John Roebuck retired. And then a few months later, Maggie left. Yeah. And so, you know, we hadn't planned to write a piece that like all of this had happened because we didn't know at the beginning that all of this was happening.
Yeah, it was a slow burn.
So by the time we wrote Maggie's piece, though, about Maggie leaving, we were able to kind of say, and hey, like this is the 4th of 6 curators within a year that has left. And this points to some type of larger issue, which of course, in that article, we couldn't say exactly what that is because typically the museum isn't going to want to comment on that.
Right.
Which is understandable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do want to say that Spencer and Maggie did the best they could with my acquisition. I did get paid and, you know, everything ended up being fine. Yeah. And I don't have any like, that's not their fault.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, Spencer got offered a job at home, you know, so like obviously you want to go back and be closer to family. Maggie did the best she could with something that fell on her desk
Yeah.
and was like, okay, let me like do this, and everything worked out. And the check came through and everything was fine. So I'm not trying to, I just wanted to clear, I don't want it to sound like I have anything against
No,
Damon
of
Carter. I
course
think that
not.
they're
Yeah.
great. In fact, I applaud Damon Carter based on what you said earlier about all these institutions, like especially in 2020, kind of stepping back, taking a look at their collection and going, this is very white. This is
Mm-hmm.
a very white collection that we have. And a lot of people, I think, took a step back, looked at that, acknowledged the problem, but
Yeah.
did nothing about it.
Right.
And maybe just acknowledged the problem and thought acknowledging it was doing something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that the Eamon Carter Museum was like, we're going to start buying works by artists of color,
Yeah.
and like making that commitment and spending money on it. And I think a lot of that comes from that time period of what you're talking about, that period
Yeah.
of transition, right? Because before that, all of my work that was in museums, it was only in museums that were for people like me. They were
Yeah.
for either Chicano artists,
Mm-hmm.
artists, of like a Latin origin of some sort, right? So you're talking about like the Mexicarte Museum,
Mm-hmm.
the National Museum of Mexican Art in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, Museo del Barrio, all the places you'd think that it's at.
Right.
The Eamon Carter was the first museum of American art
Mm-hmm.
that bought something from me.
Yeah.
And that felt really good because it was like, oh, it's being recognized as American art.
Yeah.
It's not just viewed as like Chicano art for Chicano spaces. It was
Right.
like Chicano art is American art.
Yeah.
And they were like purchasing it and doing that stuff. And since then, the Blanton has bought stuff. Like so they kind of. But I don't think a lot of that would have happened
Right.
if it wasn't for that reckoning that came for them in 2020,
Oh yeah.
where there was people like you and other publications that were covering this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like Glasstire and all these other great like Art Forum and Art News and everybody that kind of
Yeah.
stepped out and were like, we took a look at their permanent collections and they're very white.
Yeah.
And why are they not supporting these spaces? And you have these other museums that have a long history of supporting them, and it's almost like they were like, well, they'll cover that,
Right.
and we'll cover, and by will they mean the majority of all the other museums in the country
Right.
will keep showing white artists almost exclusively.
Right.
And I think that reckoning came,
Yeah.
and now everybody is American museums that represent American art are putting on exhibitions that are more reflective of the population of America.
Yeah.
The United States. Let's say
Yeah.
America. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
United States.
Yeah.
But no, I like heavily identify with what you're saying. And I think that it's because we can complain about this all day. Like me
Mhm.
and my friends, we can be in our studios and we can be like, blah, 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 blah. But whenever y'all do something about it, you have such a powerful job because when you write about things, people talk about things, it gets brought to everyone's attention. And then, like you said, people feel like, I need to respond to this.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody needs to respond to Ben. Like, we just put something on Instagram, like, I'm upset about that. Nobody cares.
Right.
But when y'all do something, y'all, in many cases, and this is by no means your job, it's more just like a side effect, you end up being the voice of so many marginalized communities.
Yeah.
If you choose to be,
Right. Yeah.
you
And
can be that.
And I think, yeah, that is the thing that I really appreciate about this career shift that I made. I loved working in education. I loved being a teacher. I loved working in museums. But working at Glasstire and being in this place where I have a platform and my voice is valued from the same institutions that I used to work inside, and my voice was maybe less valued because I was just an education manager.
Yeah.
Now my voice is valued at a different level by some of these same institutions and others like them.
Yeah.
And others in the art community, right? And that feels really like heavy and important.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
I don't take that lightly. And it's something that I think about often and try to make sure that my reporting is always, like, especially when it's news reporting, unbiased and fair, and when it's my features, that it's really thought through and that I'm supporting my opinions well, so that like what the criticism that I'm bringing
Yeah.
is well reasoned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. People fear you. People, you
I
walk
don't think
around
that's
and people
true.
are like, "Oh my God, Jessica's here." I
No.
remember you came to the opening of Soy de Tejas, and we gave you a catalog
Yeah.
that everybody signed. And Joe Pena and I went out, I think for drinks after, and I think maybe I forgot to sign yours or something. And I was like, "Oh, I forget." And he was like, "Oh, I signed it." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, I wrote, 'You have the power to destroy us.'" And I was like, "That's hilarious." And I think a lot of people view any like buddy who does like art critique work like that. I think that people are more scared of them than view them as friends.
Mm.
Do you ever feel that? Like you walk around and people are kind of like, "Do you need anything?" Like, "Thanks for coming to my show."
I don't really feel that fear. It's interesting for you to point that out though, because now I think I'm going to be really aware of it.
I mean, nobody wants to make you mad. Like if you and I were in a fight, I'd be like, "I gotta fix this. I gotta fix this quick."
No, but I do feel like a lot of respect.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and again, like that's something that I feel like I can't take lightly.
Hmm.
Like it's respect is earned, it's not just given, and so I think like I hope that the work that I've done to date earns that respect, and as I continue down this path, that
Yeah.
I'll uphold that.
Yeah. The platform you have exists because you're good at what you do, right? Like if you were bad, everybody'd be like, "Who cares what they say? They suck," you know? But
Right.
you've done a really great job, and I think the work you do is admirable and respectable, and people look at it and they're just like, "Oh, damn, like, she's here. Like it's fun."
Well, one of the things that I'll say, especially from a professional development standpoint, is, I couldn't really see before I started working at Glasstire the exact connectivity between my previous work and working for Glasstire, but almost immediately it was super clear to me that, especially in museums, but even as a middle school teacher, my job was to learn a thing, like research it heavily, learn a thing, and then present it to children or the general public in a way that was manageable for them,
Hmm.
right? Like take all of this information, condense it down, and like put it back out there in a way that is accessible.
Right.
And that's what I do at Glasstire. It's just in a different form. I'm not standing up in a classroom and teaching it. Instead, I'm writing it out. But it's the exact same kind of work of a lot of like deep research and consideration, and then really thoughtful consideration about my word choice and how I'm writing this and how I tell a story and break a thing down so that it's, enjoyable and accessible, and, people learn something from it.
Yeah. So from a professional development standpoint, let's pretend that there's some little art historian majors right now watching this, and they're like, "This sounds really interesting. I think I'd be interested in learning more. Maybe I want to do this."
Mm-hmm.
Could you walk them through like what does a day in your life look like? What does it look like? How do you go from like maybe an idea to like execution? Or like what does it look like? You going, like just walk us through that. And I know that it's different depending if it's local or if you have to travel or whatever, but
Sure. Yeah. I mean, generally my week, like I'm a very compartmentalized person, which for better or worse, but it serves me. So my week, I kind of break it down. I do different kinds of tasks each day. So like on Mondays, I am, receiving pitches, going through my inbox, responding to emails, and kind of prepping the calendar, because we get tons of pitches from contributors all across the state. Right now, our publishing calendar is filled out through November.
amazing.
And we are in September right now. So, so kind of going through pitches and finding places for them on the calendar and communicating with writers. On Tuesdays, I do a lot of editing. So I will like sit down, look at what we have coming up, and read through all of these things, provide edits for our writers, and get back to them with that. On Wednesdays, I might like focus on my own writing, because I still, as editor in chief, I'm still writing feature articles, usually every other week. So that's a lot of research, pre-writing, thinking about things that I've seen recently, planning where I want to go next, and starting to figure out my plans for what I'm going to be writing, or I'll be like in the writing process. On Thursdays, I almost always go see art. So I try to like carve out a whole day to just go see something,
Yeah.
whether that's Fort Worth or a Dallas day, or if I'm traveling, of course. But I try to carve out some dedicated time to go see art and to see art with people.
Mm,
Like I enjoy going to art museums by myself, it's fine, but going with somebody always sparks like a new kind of conversation, and gives some new insight. And so I think that shows up in my work sometimes in my writing. I'll write about conversations that I have with people about art, because I think it's more interesting than just one person's opinion.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Fridays, I kind of, yeah, wrap everything up, make sure everything's going as it should be. But yeah, I try to kind of divide everything up from day to day.
You take the weekends off?
I try to.
That's nice.
But I mean, I feel like also as somebody who writes about art, almost everything I do in my life is somehow ties back to my job, which I'm
Right.
okay with. Like on the weekends, if I go to a museum or go to an opening or go to a thing, like I'm kind of on the clock, but I'm also
Mm-hmm.
really enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and oftentimes my personal experience shows up in my writing. So, for example, I took a 2-week vacation. I was really excited to just like completely no email, no
Yeah.
text,
Off the grid.
off the grid, like don't contact me, for 2 weeks with my daughters. And we went on this massive road trip and it was amazing and beautiful. And I took all these pictures. And of course, when I got back, I was like, I want to write about it.
Yeah.
I want to write about
Yeah,
this.
right. Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did. I really like the piece that I wrote. I didn't write it while I was on vacation. I wrote it when I got back. But
Right.
yeah,
Good for you.
everything in my life, I feel like, shows up in my writing somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best part of your job?
Ooh, the best part of my job. I mean, I feel like the best part of my job is the connections, right? Like getting to know people like you, getting to
Bang.
know artists and getting to know people who really are passionate about art and who are making things happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's on, like I said, a small scale in the Panhandle, or if it's, somebody who is working higher up in a big museum. There's just so many people who make the art world go. And so being in conversation with them, meeting people, building those relationships, that's really enjoyable for me.
Nice. What's the worst part of your job?
Oh, the worst part of my job. I mean, probably some of the administrative work, you know. One of the things that Glasstire does, and I think a lot of publications do this, is that we screen all of the comments that come in.
Mm.
So if things are, derogatory, libelous, off topic, spam, whatever, we'll delete comments before they publish. So going through and reading some of those can be a little exhausting.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
I credit a lot of my personal, like, artistic success to having people write and talk about it.
Mm.
I think that when I first started, I worked on this series called The Endless Endeavor, which now I have this like huge love-hate relationship with because it's like all people want to see. But when I did that, I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, I made this huge thing. I think it's beautiful. How do I tell people about it?
Yeah.
And so I've always been kind of like a bit of a self-starter. And so I reached out to like our local paper, which was the Caller Times. And I was like, I did this thing. If you want to come see it. And they showed up.
Yeah.
And they wrote about it. And then someone else wrote about it. And then someone else wrote about it. And it was like that one person writing about it, other people saw it from somewhere else. And they were like, I'd get an email. And they'd be like, hey, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, yeah. And then that, and I've just been really fortunate. I've been really fortunate in that never stopped for me.
Yeah.
And I do this thing that you'll probably think is silly. But I do this thing where about once or twice a year, I Google myself to see if there are articles that I missed that I can put on my CV.
Nice.
And there always are. There's just always publications I've never heard of that wrote about my work, talked about the work, that never talked to me.
Yeah.
They never interviewed me. They never did anything. I remember this one that I think of a lot because I liked it. was it was called Texas Highways
Yeah.
magazine.
Uh-huh.
Literally never was what is this?
Yeah.
And it was just an article about me.
Yeah.
And it was about the sculpture that the Fort Worth Community Arts Center rented from me.
Mm-hmm.
And they wrote a whole thing about it. The materials, the subject matter, this thing. And I was just like reading it, and it was old. It
Yeah.
came out like a while ago, and I just fully missed it. No one even emailed it to me.
Yeah.
And I think so much of that has helped me maintain my career and stay relevant
Yeah.
and stay in people's minds. With that being said, that's probably a really long-winded way of saying this. There are probably a lot of artists who maybe are listening to this or watching this that are getting ready to graduate, and they're like, I've got this thing planned, I got this. How do I get this in front of you?
Yeah.
How do I get you to write about this? Or, because I think that there's a lot of people that they work really hard.
Yeah.
And they put on great exhibitions. 5 people show up, nobody writes, and then it's over. And then I think sometimes it can be kind of defeating, and it can be kind of like crushing.
Yeah.
And so there's probably a lot of people that maybe are watching this that are like, how do I get on your radar?
Sure. Yeah. No, that's a great question. I think the easiest thing to do is to first get the exhibition listed on Glasstire. So 2 weeks at least before the exhibition opens, ideally even further out from that, emailing eventstx@glasstire.com, so that we can get the exhibition listed on our events page. That's huge, because when people go and they're looking what's coming up in my hometown, I'm going to be in Houston, what's going to be on view there, just having your exhibition listed there is the first step of getting eyes on it. And I think our contributors also look at that listing when they're thinking about, okay, what do I want to see and what do I want to pitch? So having it there is the first step. And then from there, I think also reaching out, people are always welcome to reach out to info@glasstire.com, or even to editor@glasstire.com, and just, send a little email and let us know, like, hey, I have this opening, I'd love for you to come. Of course, we can't make it to everything, but if we see it and it is interesting and we think somebody might want to cover it, if I can't be there, I can reach out to one of our contributors and see if somebody wants to go and cover that. So yeah, reaching out, sending an email, and making sure that the exhibition is listed on Glasstire.
Where do they find your emails? Is it listed on the website?
Yeah, I think it's listed on our contact page.
Nice.
Or about us.
Yeah.
One of these. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go. And people should do that.
Yeah,
I think a lot of
please.
people are kind of timid.
Yeah.
Or maybe don't even realize that it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
They think like, I need to know them. This is all like people who you know, and it's like you could literally cold email someone.
Yeah.
Just like, boom, I'm doing this thing.
And getting to know people, building that network is a really important part of professional development too. Like if you see me or other Glasstire people out and about, like come up and say hi. We're not scary.
Yeah.
We want to get to know people, and building your network is, how you move forward in any direction, right? Like for me, with even getting into Glasstire, I knew Christopher Blay because he was an arts writer from Fort Worth, and he had written about my art, and we knew each other. And so when he was leaving Glasstire, he thought of me for that job. That didn't mean that I was definitely going to get it, but he thought I should apply. And that was like a foot in the door and a first step. And I think too, for people who are interested in writing, when I applied for Glasstire and I had my first interview, Brandon asked me, why have you never written for Glasstire before? And I said, because I didn't know how.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea like how to write for Glasstire. It never dawned on me that was a thing that anybody could just do.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if you're interested in writing for Glasstire, send me a pitch.
Yeah.
Just send it to editor@glasstire.com. And
do they send like full articles already, or they're like, I'd like to
No.
write about this, an idea?
Yeah, just a pitch, just an idea.
I'm gonna send you a pitch.
We prefer not to have like a full article up front, because especially with new contributors, there's a little bit of time before like we first get on the ground running with an article, because like typically I want to meet that person on Zoom or have a phone call, talk a little bit about Glasstire's process and how it works, give some direction. And then also check that publishing calendar to see, do we have somebody already covering that show? Do we have space on the calendar before that show closes? All of these kinds of things. But sending a pitch to me directly, that's the first way to start that conversation about
Nice.
writing for us.
Does Glasstire pay contributing writers?
Yes. Yeah.
So, what a good side hustle. If you guys want to do it.
Yeah, we pay contributing writers. We have like a sliding scale of fees, and we usually start people off at 175 per article. And articles can be, 800 to 1,200 words, or we also have people who write longer than that as well. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember this advice that this guy gave me. He wrote for the Chicago Sun. It was really weird. Not the guy. The guy was weird. The situation was weird. I was doing a show at Flatbed. And it was 2020. And then everything shut down.
Yeah.
Right. But we had it on the books. And I had made the show already.
Yeah.
So I was like, we're going to do the show. And Catherine Brimberry, she still wanted to do the show. So we put it up. And I was like, how can we do this show? Nobody can come. Like, how can we do this? And I was like, what if I'm going to be here for 2 days. Right. So what if throughout the 2 days for the gallery hours, we get 2 chairs, we measure it, we make sure they're 6 feet apart, we mask up, and we let people come in for like 1 hour slots, one at a time, and I sit down with them, and they get to view the show, and I answer any of their questions, and we hang out. And she was like, that sounds cool, we can do that. And I was like, okay, cool. And I thought, this sounds interesting. Maybe someone would want to write about it or something. So I contacted like the local NPR place in Austin, which I think is KUT. And they were like, we love this. This is great. Let's do an interview. Like, come on and we'll do a thing.
Yeah.
So I did this interview on KUT, and they were like, at the end of it, they were like, Muñoz is doing this show. If you want to sign up for these 1 hour time slots, you can do that. They filled up immediately.
That's amazing.
And they filled up with journalists, people from the Chicago Sun, New York Times, just like and I was like, it was cool, but it was also like, I'm not going to get to talk to anybody normal. And I say that to say that this guy from the Chicago Sun came in. I still follow him on Instagram. He's great. And at the time he wasn't writing for them anymore. And he had like sat there, and I was like, I've always wanted to get an article in like a huge publication, right?
Yeah.
Like some front page, like New York Times thing. And I was like, but I don't know how to get a hold of them, how to like even open the door. And he was like, oh, I used to work there. And like that, he was like, what you should do? Just email them. And I was like, email who? And he was like, this is what I think is the easiest thing to do. You make work about immigration and about like, the show at the time was just all about like border politics. And he was like, so all you got to do is like, just get on Google and Google New York Times article about immigration and border policies. Hit enter, and all these articles will pop up, and there will be they credit the writer. Find the writer's name. Their email is typically always there. Send them an email and be like, hey, I read your article about this. I'm doing this. I think it's related. Let me know if you'd be interested in it. You send it to them. And it's you've skipped so many lines already, because now you have direct contact with the person, and you already know they're interested in what you're making, because
that's really smart.
Yeah. And I was like, I had no idea that you could just do that. And I've kind of applied that in like multiple things, but I just thought that would be helpful. Like too. Like
no, I think that's great advice. Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's so simple. But I had never considered that at all.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I realized the full impact that knowing people like you and other like writers would have like on my career, and how important it all is. And just the amount of I hang up, I think you've been in my studio, but I hang up all of the little Glasstire articles. I print them out, and then I pin them on my wall in my studio.
I love that.
And I'm like, look, like I did something, and I think it's really great. And you're awesome.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything that we didn't, we're under. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you feel like is important for someone to know, or even just like a story you want to tell or something like that? It can be anything. It doesn't even have to be related if you just want to tell a random story.
No, I'm not going to tell a random story. But no, I mean, I think we've hit on most things, and maybe just kind of reiterating, building that network. That's so important. Even when I got my first job at the Dallas Museum of Art, that was due in part because in my master's program, we were given an assignment. We had to each interview somebody who worked in the arts, anybody we wanted. And so I was like, well, I want to work at a museum in education, so I'm going to interview a director of education. So I interviewed somebody in that kind of role at the Dallas Museum of Art who worked in the Center for Creative Connections. And we had a great conversation. I wrote a little paper for my class. And then when the job became available and I applied like in March, and then I didn't hear anything and I was like, oh, I guess, whatever, didn't happen. And then I kind of forgot that I applied for it. And in October, I got a phone call from this woman who I had interviewed for my class. And she was like, hey, Jessica, I saw that you applied for this job. Are you still interested? I saw your name in the pile of applicants and I was really excited to see that you
Wow.
applied.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, if I would have never done that interview with
Mm-hmm.
her, had never met her, then she wouldn't know a little bit about who I am. And it wouldn't have been, a thing to help me
Wouldn't have
kind of,
stood out.
yeah,
Yeah.
stand out among 80 applicants.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it didn't mean that I got the job because of that,
Mm-hmm.
but I got an interview because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then, that allowed me to come and be my best self and earn the job.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you never know where these little things and these little moments and these little connections will take you. And so, yeah, like getting to know people, pinpointing people who you're interested in, who you admire, who you respect, and going and seeking them out and
Yeah.
reaching out and making connections. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question
Yes.
that I think is subjective, but I think it might be helpful. Maybe it won't be because it's so subjective and so like anecdotal.
Okay.
But how do you decide what you're going to write about and what you're not going to write? Like you go to an exhibition, how do you make that decision of like, I'm going to write about this?
Oh man, that's really hard. I don't know if I can really pinpoint that because it's so different. I mean, for everything that I write about, it's so different. Um, let's see. I guess I think I'm drawn to I'm drawn to a few different, like I have a few different areas of interest, right? Like I'm drawn to art that deals with technology. My bachelor's degree was in art and performance, but when I started at UT Dallas, they were just starting their art and technology program.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a lot of background in photography and videography. And so I'm really interested in writing about those kinds of shows and those kinds of artists. But beyond that, of course, I also have an interest in writing about Latino artists, Latinx artists, and writing about women artists. So I have like certain ideas and things that I'm kind of drawn to. Like I wrote a review of the exhibition Diaries of Home at the Modern because as a photographer, this was like a photography show of all like, I think it was women and non-binary artists making photography about home. And that just like touched me so personally
Yeah.
in my own practice and what I do. So it's really hard to pinpoint it, but I think it's, anything that kind of hits me personally and which can be a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons,
Right.
As a mother, artists who are mothers or who are parents who are making significant work about their children, their family, their lives, there's that struggle, like that is something that I'm also drawn to. Yeah, the list goes on and it's hard to really pinpoint it, but it's kind of intuitive. Yeah, when I see something I know, it just kind of clicks.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing something personal, which is how you balance being a mom and you're being the editor-in-chief of Glasstire?
Yeah, I get asked that question a lot. And I think it is difficult and people ask like, how do you do it? And I feel like, and maybe a lot of other moms or parents might feel the same way. I feel like I have no other choice, right? Like I want to do Glasstire. I want to be editor in chief and I want to do this role well and I'm going to do it well. And I want to be a good supportive parent and I have to do that well. So I just I just do it, I'm really fortunate, I guess, to have, support systems.
Yeah.
Like my mom lives nearby, my sister lives nearby. I've got great friends who are always willing to like lend a hand. So that really helps. But really the flexibility of Glasstire because I kind of make my hours, because if I'm going to a show on a Saturday night and that's on the clock, then maybe I'll clock out a little bit early on a Wednesday and pick my daughter up from school, right? There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
flexibility in my role too. So I don't know. I think the things that make me good at Glasstire maybe also make me a good and successful parent.
Nice.
In my ability to be like organized, to communicate well, to like slow down and be thoughtful about things, to be attentive. So I think it's a lot of similar skill sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had to, from like being a dad, I've had to be more serious with myself about my own capacity.
Mm,
And I've had to like quit things.
yeah.
And I've had to like let go and be like, okay, I can't do everything.
Yeah.
But what's most important? What do I really want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, because there's what's most important, which is I'm responsible for these tiny humans. So I got it.
Yes.
That's very important. And like, what do I want to do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think like having to like let certain things go. And I think that you do such a good job at Glasstire, and you're doing such a good job with your family, that I think people can look at that and they can be like, she's just superhuman, and not realize that sprinkled in there is a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah.
And is a lot of you having to say no to certain things that you were really passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
But you were like, I can't juggle all of that.
Yeah.
And I refuse to do a bad job in these areas. So I'm going to have to let go of that.
Yeah, I think that's really important to point out. And I think also for me, going from news editor to editor in chief has been a shift, right? It is a different role. And because of that, there are things that I am starting to step back from now, right? Like previously as news editor, I was also the founding director of Kinfolk House. And I'm still technically in that role, but I am slowly kind of rolling off of that role. I'm working with Cedric and Letitia Huckabee to make a plan, so that the organization is still like in a good place. But also like I understand that I don't have the capacity to direct Kinfolk House and be editor in chief at Glasstire. And so being aware of what that capacity is, I think also a lot of self-care.
Ooh,
this is something that
say that, Jessica.
is so important because like sometimes I will be exhausted from a thing,
Yeah.
and my like overachiever instinct is like, I'm just gonna power through.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've been learning the last few years is actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna take a 30-minute nap,
I love naps.
because whatever I write in
Mm-hmm.
these 30 minutes that I'm trying to like struggle and
Mhm.
power through is not nearly going to be as good
Mhm.
as what I write
Yep.
after I wake up
Yep.
from that 30-minute nap.
Yeah.
Like, why put myself through that?
Yeah. I heavily identify with that. Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like I typically take like a daily nap. I get out for walks often. I spend time with friends. I listen to I have like a positive playlist. My therapist always asks me like, what is your positive content input this week?
Ooh.
Like, what are the positive things that you're putting into
I'm
yourself?
gonna steal that.
You should. It's so good. And it's something I think about all the
Yeah.
time. And so, yeah,
That's really
I
good,
think-
because I can
yeah.
kind of like, for me, I can put that in categories of like, oh, there's a lot of bad things going on recently. I got to start pouring in some good,
yes.
or let me not do that.
Yeah.
And this instead. Like, let me
Yes.
swap these out.
Yeah. And it can be, it can be all kinds of different things that
Yeah.
are the positive things that feed you, right? Like it can be going to dinner with a friend. It could be laying on the couch and watching TV for an hour uninterrupted with nobody else.
I really like that, because I don't know if you identify with this too, but I feel really guilty doing things for myself.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like, I'm just gonna go to the museum by myself, I feel really guilty doing that, because there's always something that needs to get done.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have to fold that laundry. I have to, wash my kids' softball uniform. Like I have to, and then, so even if you're like caught up on work stuff, you're like, I want to do something for myself, but you go to do it and I can feel guilty doing it.
Yeah.
But if I think about it in terms of like, no, I'm doing this for myself because I've had a lot of negative things recently, like this happening in my life and that happening. And I
Yeah.
need to balance these scales out so I'm the best version of myself. So I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
it changes it for me when I
Yeah.
think about it like what you just said, because now I'm not thinking about it like I'm wasting time. I'm thinking about it like I'm owed this
Yeah.
because of this, and I need to balance it out so I'm the best version of myself.
Yeah. And I think that also as a parent, like it teaches our children how to take care of themselves too. Because I don't
You're
want to
good, dude.
perpetuate this, right? Like
Yeah,
I know that I like
this is why you're
early
such a
in
good
my
writer.
early in my adulthood, I had
Yeah,
perpetuated some of these like negative patterns from our other generations, older generations.
yeah. The
Um,
ancestors.
yes. And so, you know, like I try to remind myself too, like I'm setting a good example for my child
Hmm.
about prioritizing themselves, about taking care of themselves, about not ever like letting themselves get so run down that they can't function well.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think that's important too for kids to see that.
Yeah. When I was driving here, I was like, we're gonna end pretty early. And I was like, I should text Maria Elena and like go to the modern. But I was like, I have too much to do. And I think I'm gonna go do that now.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should do
Just
it.
from like I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna go see what's going on over there. Like let
Yeah,
me just see what's happening.
I
Yeah.
think that's a great idea.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's really so important. And I think that yeah, you're such a lovely person.
Oh, thank you. So are
I
you.
I enjoy you so much, and I feel so lucky and blessed to have you not only in Texas and like doing all this for all of these people, but just to have you in my life as well. To
Oh,
be like, oh, this is someone that I know who's doing this really important work, who is not a bad person, who is not nepotistic, who is not, like you're genuinely as open and warm as you appear. And I think that that's so important. And I think that we're so lucky to have you. We as like the art scene of Texas, really as the country of artists are so lucky to have someone as genuine as you in that position, because it could be so, I mean, and we see examples of it where it's really bad.
hmm.
Um, and I think that we're just really so blessed to have somebody who is genuine and does it for all the right reasons, as editor in chief of Glasstire. And I think that it's really wonderful that,
Thank you.
yeah. So just wanted to gas you up for a second.
Yeah, thank you so much. Sorry, that is yeah, so kind and it feels good to hear, you know, like a lot of the time I feel like the work that we do, especially as writers, can feel like self-contained. And to just be reminded of like the impact of that and the
Hmm.
impact of that work is, yeah,
Yeah.
really important. So thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we're good unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
I think that's it.
Nice. Thank you for letting me. I think I'm thinking in terms of like an audience,
Yes.
like people watching it. But so I'll say thank you for them too. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I'll see you when I see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.